Part of my nightmare is over. Alright. Hope everybody's doing alright today. Got it filed. Post-conviction relief has been filed in the Circuit Court of Lafayette County. I was reading off the motion on the way up here. The last day, the last hour, the last minute, but I got it in. I've hit every roadblock that there is seemingly known to man just in getting this bad boy filed. The circuit court clerk, Jeff Busby, actually spoke directly with the presiding judge, Judge Kelly Luther, who indicated that I mean, here's the thing about post-conviction release. Anybody that's had a state charge that has gotten 5 years or more on a sentence, or even less, generally will file a post-conviction relief. My case is a little bit peculiar, especially with the General Flynn coerced plea, where he was ultimately threatened, coerced, under stress, to plea out to something he didn't do, okay? Due to evidence beyond all reasonable doubt that I've uncovered, to not give me a hearing, to not examine the evidence here of extreme corruption, government corruption, that took place at the hands of agencies tasked with protecting the American people, that chose in turn to turn a blind eye, to obstruct justice, and even so bad as what all signs lead to believe as evidence tampering. Hold on a second. God willing, I'll get a speedy hearing. We'll be able to show 100% of the facts that I've unearthed over the last 3 months during my discovery phase of coming back here to Oxford to get to the bottom of this public corruption nightmare. And at the end of the day, it wasn't just me that I did this for. I did it for the family members that are close to me. My wife, my kids, in-laws. I did it for the family members that are not close to me, that have... What's up, WMC? You guys gonna cover a good story? Boy, do I got some questions. I've got some questions. Hey, who got to you guys as far as like not wanting to cover a legitimate public corruption scandal? A government corruption scandal. And y'all won't even reach out to me and have a a Zoom meeting because it doesn't fit the fake news narrative. Ridiculous. I've been fought non-stop by the liberal news media trying to sweep the shit under the table. Don't know who got to them, but I do know that it's you know, it's definitely not a part of the fear-mongering narrative that you see oh too often. See, I want to know why WMC TV will not cover a legitimate breaking story. One that involves public corruption at its highest degree. You've got a female Democrat mayor who used the framing and banishment and effectively the signing of a covenant to not sue to shield her illegitimate election. Destroyed my life in order to benefit 4. Look at this. Look at him leaving. Look at him leaving. This is what the fake news does. This right here, this is what the fake news does. They don't cover legitimate topics. Look at them. This is a quid pro quo public corruption scandal which directly benefited the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department and Sheriff's Deputy Timmy Pruitt, directly benefited the mayor of Oxford, the 36th mayor of Oxford, and her husband, who was the child custody attorney of my ex, where it's been a constant game since day one of weaponizing the courts using my almost 6-year-old daughter to try to manipulate an outcome, force my wrist into submission. I was poorly informed by my counsel. I'm gonna read, once again, the post-conviction relief, all right? Motion for post-conviction relief comes now the petitioner, pro se, okay? I had the full, complete confidence of being able to overturn this myself through the evidence that I've uncovered. For those that don't know, it's my intention, when all's said and done, to put myself through law school to become an attorney in order to help other people, particularly with 1983 civil rights lawsuits, to be a trial litigator where I can actually hold the corrupt actors in our local, states, and federal governments accountable for their corrupt actions. Comes now the petitioner pro se and files his motion to set aside his plea of guilty and sentence rendered thereon, and in support thereof would show to the court the following. 1. That petitioner waived formal indictment in the 3rd District of the Circuit Court of Lafayette County, Mississippi for aggravated stalking, to wit, an AR-15 rifle with intent to place Todd and/or Ashley Lynch in reasonable fear of great bodily injury. A copy of said criminal information was filed in this court on the 6th day of July 2017 and attached hereto as Exhibit A. 2. That the petitioner pled guilty to the aforementioned alleged crime and was sentenced by Circuit Court of Lafayette County, Mississippi on the 6th day of July 2017 in cause number LK17-295 to 5 years in the custody of the Department of Corrections with the balance of the sentence 5 years to be served on supervised probation, a true copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit B. 3, that this motion is filed pursuant to Mississippi Code 99-39-5, Mississippi Uniform Post-Conviction Relief Collateral Act, and is filed in the correct jurisdiction and venue. 4, that the respondent was in direct violation of the petitioner's 1st, 8th, and 14th constitutional rights at the time the plea was given. 5, that petitioner's guilty plea was involuntary due to a denial of his due process rights as guaranteed by the United States and State of Mississippi Constitutions, thus making his plea of guilty a violation of the laws of the State of Mississippi. 6, that petitioner received inadequate representation by his legal counsel on record, in which adequate counsel representation likely would have resulted in an outright dismissal of the state's charge. It would have amounted to a complete dismissal. There's no likely. I was just advised to use the term likely. Without all reasonable doubt, it would have led to a complete dismissal. Okay? Furthermore, petitioner only met with his legal counsel one time, and no discovery motion was ever requested by the petitioner's legal counsel. That's Brennan Horan, by the way, and Horn Lake. Horrible, horrible. 7, that the state has refused to comply with a Freedom of Information Act request for information regarding the phone call received on May 24, 2017, which through the state's own admission on a more recent public records request ultimately led to the charge being levied against petitioner. A copy of the state's admission to receiving a phone call and basing their allegation upon the information received is attached as Exhibit C. 8, that there exists additional evidence of material facts not reasonably discoverable at the time of involuntary plea and not previously presented and heard, which requires vacation of the conviction or sentence in the interest of justice. Wherefore, premises considered, plaintiff prays that the court will enter an order vacating and setting aside the guilty plea herein and the sentence in cause number LK17-295. That is my signature, and the document is now filed in an open legal matter in the circuit court right here behind me. It's also been served. Got the criminal information. I will post a copy of this on writingwiththeoutlaw.com. If you would like to get a copy of this court filing, go to writingwiththeoutlaw.com. I'll have it up this evening. I've got the criminal disposition, okay? This is the plea. And then I've also got the public record as Exhibit C. This is where Lafayette County Sheriff's Department admits that they received a call, that Sheriff's Investigator Jared Bundren received a phone call on May 24th, 2017, which therein led to, well, it was a call stating that I was threatening Todd and Ashley Lynch and Frank and Marley's, which was not the case. In fact, I've got evidence of them being the ones threatening, of them creating a, well, I say them. I'm not going to go out and speak and say them as in the Lynches. But a YouTube channel created with like 15, 20 videos about me. Who's the stalker? Todd Lynch on video saying that there needs to be a problem resolution and that the members of the community, being Oxford, needed to come together and figure out a way to get rid of Matt Reardon. How do you dispute something like that? How can you dispute something like that when he's on video saying it just days prior to my false arrest, my illegal confinement, my First Amendment rights, my Eighth Amendment rights, and my 14th Amendment rights getting absolutely destroyed in a quid pro quo plot which helped elect a female Democrat mayor, shield the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department and Timmy Pruitt from the liability imposed by his unlawful arrest May 1st for me standing in front of that statue on public property holding the state flag back May 1st, 2017, which also helped get the problem out of the way for Frank and Marley's and the Lynches, and finally, which helped a mother of an almost 2-year-old little girl at that time slide the father completely out of the way, but not his money out of the way. Because see, they made sure to take out a withholding order for $600 a month in child support, knowing that I was innocent the entire time and playing a major part in this entire scandal even being able to go down in the first place. And the most sickening thing of all is for Lafayette County Sheriff's Department to know without all reasonable doubt that I was innocent. To go through every extent that they could to threaten me, to try to force my hand into submission, and through their own admission to have received the phone call which led to me getting arrested for something I didn't even do, I couldn't have possibly done, 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, and to refuse to comply with a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA, a public records request for information about the call received on May 24th, 2017. They want to keep the masked actor right there unknown. They want to keep him masked. The attorney for Lafayette County refused. He was gonna get a copy of that information to me at the last minute. And at the last minute, he decided to seal up the record as confidential, as something that fell out of the scope of the Freedom of Information Act. a Marine Corps veteran who wrote a blank check to our government for an amount up to and including his life back at the end of 2007. A patriotic American, a conservative, and a 3%er that would never cause anybody any kind of harm, but only be there to protect himself and his family and those around unable to defend themselves from all enemies, foreign and domestic. As I said the other day, the oath I took back at the end of 2007 had no expiration date. There's nowhere in the military oath that says that it ends at any particular point. And all I would like, okay, I have asked, I've been more than patient with my statute of limitations clock running out, which ran out today. But it ran out after I filed my post-conviction relief in the sentencing court, the Circuit Court of Lafayette County, to be presided over by Judge Kelly Luther. And I believe the evidence, you can't dispute the evidence. I fully expect and anticipate this lower court to 100% vacate the plea and sentence, all of which were involuntary. I've got a psychological evaluation that was conducted in September of 2017, 2 months after I got out, after I was coerced to plea out. So it wasn't something recent, okay? It couldn't get more spot on and accurate than 2 months after everything happened. The psychologist actually states in his report that I was coerced under stress, under duress, to plea out in order to see my daughter, in order to get my daughter back, which was currently being used as a tool in another game of chess in Chancery Court. 17 police reports filed by my ex, Phyllis Crowder, over 5 years that I've unearthed through public records request. 15 of them, just some of the absolute craziest gapped off lies. Go to writingwiththeoutlaw.com. I've got a section up there called the Phyllis Crowder wacky drone accusations, among others. The extent that these people went to have me framed and to destroy my life is absolutely sickening, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And what I want right now is I want Lafayette County Sheriff's Department to come forward and to admit that they made a mistake, whether it be by following bad information, through horrible training and investigative skills of their deputy who claims that he investigated it, which clearly didn't. And I want them to stop obstructing justice. because there's a really, really horrible problem that's going on in this area, in this city and county, and it's spreading across our country like wildfire. It is the biggest problem, and I'm going to write a book on this topic. It'll be in my book about this, that's for sure. It's called trickle-down corruption. Trickle-down corruption. And what trickle-down corruption is everybody has a ringleader. Everybody has, that puppet string is always pulled by somebody. When I started out on this mission, I wasn't sure how deep that dark, sinister web went. Okay? What I've uncovered is jaw-dropping. And I've come across people along the way, which there's no doubt in my mind that their hand is being twisted and they're forced to make decisions that they don't want to have to make, but they're having to make because they're having to choose between their livelihood. They're having to choose between good and evil. See, I believe Joey East, Sheriff Joey East, I believe he wanted to help. I believe Sheriff Joey East probably wanted to help. I don't believe Sheriff Joey East is a bad guy. I believe his hand is being forced by that red building right there. City Hall. And even though he's the sheriff of Lafayette County, don't think for a second that the people that are occupying City Hall now don't have any say in what goes on with the Lafayette County Sheriff. It's certainly not Joey calling the shots. That's for sure. See, Joey, I believe, is a victim of trickle-down corruption. I believe that his hand is forced in doing things that he may not be comfortable in doing. Maybe even things that are unconstitutional. I'm not here to judge him. But my biggest problem is there are a lot of great law enforcement officers, both at the Sheriff's Department here and the City Police Department. There are officers that are having to make that controversial call. Having to make that controversial call of choosing between good and evil. Just like police departments and sheriff's departments are all around the country. And they took a very similar oath to me. To protect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. And at the end of the day, the United States Constitution has been around for hundreds of years. It is a frozen document. Frozen meaning it was crafted. And our forefathers that helped frame that document knew well in advance the tremendous issues that we could come under as citizens and as society. And in that Constitution there are rights expressed that are given to us by God. They're God-given rights. And no matter what, no city, no county, no matter what, no city, no county has the right to enact laws that directly go against the Constitution. Never. But got somebody that illegitimately assumed the position as mayor of Oxford. Through the framing, the silencing of a Marine Corps veteran and patriotic American. You want to see the face of pure evil? Walk through those doors. Walk through those doors. You'll see somebody that clearly doesn't respect or follow guidelines laid out in our Constitution. That this entire time has pushed her evil, liberal, democratic playbook. At the freedom, at the mercy of the freedom of somebody else. Trickle-down corruption has got to be stopped. And the only way that trickle-down corruption is going to stop is if you cut the head off the snake. You've heard of follow the money. You want to see what the deep state is? Go to writingwithoutlaw.com. There's so much proof on there, and I might have maybe half of the information uploaded to it that will be there. But this has become a problem that's larger than us, folks. Good officers are being put in harm's way because they're being made to choose between following the Constitution, upholding the Constitution, or following the orders set by their supervisors, whoever's above them. And for any officer that's here, both with the local police department, or the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department, now is the time to actually do something about it, to push back, to actually do what you took an oath to do, in upholding and defending the Constitution, protecting us from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And if you have a supervisor that is forcing your hand into doing something unconstitutional, something that violates the rights of others, now's your time to step out and to align yourself with me. Because I'm telling you, I hold the keys to the castle with this. Joey East, if you want to do the right thing, somehow, some way, let it be known that your hand is being forced on this. Because my war is with corruption. I am in an all-out war against corruption. Especially corruption on a governmental level. I don't want the good officers out there to think that I'm here to cause problems for you. To be a troublemaker. That's not what I'm doing. I'm telling you, it takes balls of steel. And I've got them. To stand up for what's right. In the face of pure evil. And I finally accomplished what I set out to accomplish. Digging up, unearthing more proof of this thing's nasty, ugly, dark, sinister face. And even stayed around to get even closer to the fire. I felt like there was something missing, something additional that I could get. If you're using corruption and influence through power, especially the abuse of a governmental seat that you were elected to or appointed to, you might want to take off. Because I'm not going to stop until I yank the trellises of this corrupt temple down. It's going to be biblical. And that's no threat of physical harm. Let me go ahead and state that this time. Because apparently, information that I had of money being embezzled out of a trust fund account, which I was referring to before, back in 2017, my child being used as a weaponized chess piece against me. I think all that happened since then is everybody saw firsthand that was exactly what happened. Maybe that guy isn't so crazy after all. Federal 1983 civil rights lawsuit is in the works. God willing, Judge Kelly Luther does the right thing and looks at the evidence as far as what it is, sees there was no possible way I could have committed the crime in question, being that I was accused on or before May 8th of using an AR-15 to put the Lynches in fear of their life, when I didn't purchase the AR-15 until May 20th. And finally, I'd like to let the corrupt bastards at the FBI know that I believe that they're, see, that's by far the most corrupt of organizations. FBI is full of nothing but a bunch of corrupt actors, a bunch of bullies working on behalf of the federal government that the entire time sat with a treasure trove, sat with a 302, an investigative report, which proved I couldn't have possibly committed the crime in question. They knew I didn't. And if I was lying to them, they surely would have arrested me for lying to the FBI. They had all the proof. They refused to come forward with the proof. They refused to comply with a FOIA request to produce the 302 from the sit-down meeting May 25th, 2017, the day before my arrest. And they've even hinted through 3 phone calls that they cannot find the 302, that it has grown 2 feet and just hopped, skipped, and jumped off, knowing damn well that if it was somebody that was trying to purchase a gun and they had information, or they didn't like the person for political reasons and they wanted to bar him, probably a lot like what I'm sure they've done to me. It's, by the way, it's 100% the FBI's fault that I even identify as a sovereign citizen now, since the government decided to screw me. And until they get their corrupt actors the hell out, I'm perfectly fine maintaining that status. No part, let me say this too, no part of the 3%ers is a terrorist organization. So to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office that decided to obstruct the entire time, I'm looking into any and all remedies, legal remedies, in order to weed your corrupt actors out. But to sit around with evidence that would, beyond all reasonable doubt, show that a man was framed for a crime he couldn't have committed, and to refuse to comply with a FOIA request to produce that information, it directly threatens the fabric of our society, completely destroys the integrity of our legal system and our judicial system. So God willing, come the end of this, may the innocent be found innocent, and may Thor's hammer come down on the guilty ones. They're going to have to answer for their atrocious crimes against humanity, their treasonous acts against society. I'll never be able to get the time back that I lost. I've had to treat this like a full-time job in order to unearth all the evidence, because I didn't have an attorney working for me. Whether somebody got to the attorneys and every attorney kept telling me no, or we need $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 that you don't have, So I embarked on a mission, and I'm embarking on a mission of a modern day David versus Goliath. I'm David. That's Goliath. And I just launched the stone that's going to send this ball of corruption crashing into flames. You destroyed my life, effectively removed my ability to properly protect myself and my family, robbed me of time and memories with my own child. It's almost 6 that I haven't seen since January, despite paying $600 a month in child support. And then, through my efforts to unearth the truth and to make sure that justice prevails, lost time that I can never get back with my other kids. Sent splinter cells of just lies throughout the community, the surrounding areas that are still perpetuated. Nearly destroyed a marriage. And here I stand, 3 years later, in front of the courthouse where it all first started. With a court filing that is just the beginning of the end. I won't completely rule settlement off the table. I'm just not willing to explore it right now. Right now, I want somebody's ass for this corruption scandal. And I'm gonna get it. Take care. Go to ridingwiththeoutlaw.com. Ridingwiththeoutlaw.com. Please share this. Follow along with me. If you're part of trickle-down corruption, if you're part of the problem, you better fix it and align yourself the right way before you get drugged down in this mess yourself. Take care.
It's outlaw country and you're riding with the outlaw.